Welcome. My name is Joe Scorese. I'm the host and founder of the Creative BRRRR Strategies Podcast. I'm here with a colleague of mine, Mr. Joseph Martello. We're going to be discussing a little bit out in depth. We're going to move this thing around where Joe's going to interview me to kind of get a little insight to what we're going to be providing in the Creative BRRRR Strategies Podcast. We've been around on Clubhouse for the last several years. We were doing some podcasting during COVID, but we felt compelled to now bring the audio version from Clubhouse live to video on Spotify and Apple, and really getting out in front of our national audience in education, networking, and building strategies. Joe, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Well, thank you for the opportunity as well. When you gave me the opportunity to talk to you and do this interview, live and recorded, right? It's such a great opportunities that came through my mind, both on a personal and professional size, and it's just a great opportunity overall to get down and start to speak with you and just have a one-on-one interview.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where we start with is what anybody or any listener, whether they're listening live or listening recorded, is going to want to know: who are you? Who's Joe Scorese? What does he do? And why are we here today? What's the purpose of today?
So I'm a nationwide direct private lender in the asset-based lending space. So I'm celebrating my 24th year in lending. The first, I would say, 18 to 20 years, I was pretty much in the resi-commercial space, meaning I was doing loans for not just investors, but for owner-occupied. I saw how the asset-based lending environment and the market was changing over the last 4 to 5 years, and moved over into the asset-based lending space, strictly working with investors and strictly working with investors that want to acquire, refinance, do some type of loan in the name of their LLC or S Corp or C Corp. And I really have enjoyed the transition over the last 5 years. I'm a licensed realtor since 1988. I've been licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I'm a former accountant. I'm also a real estate investor and owner of a portfolio of real estate in the state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So I think all of that, I've always been involved with good, ethical, integrous, licensed professionals in my power team. So I wanted to provide that power team piece of education back to real estate professionals across the country.
Excellent. And outside of the lending world and the real estate world, if you will, who are you?
I mean, I love my beautiful wife, Donna, who's an entrepreneur herself. She's in the wellness and massage therapy space. She owns a massage therapy school in Old City, Philadelphia. We've been married now over 13 years. And, I enjoy my time cooking, watching podcasts, reading a lot of data in regards to the market, what's going on across the country, different aspects. I'm a big data junkie. So I think you would appreciate that. We're always reading data. In between that and spending time with my wife and cooking and enjoying our time together, I'm just staying focused on the industry itself.
Right. You have a culinary background?
Yes.
Too?
Yes. I was in the hotel industry all through college, went to New York restaurant school for a year. So I can throw it down like the best of them. I send you pictures as well of some of my meals.
Yes. Perhaps we could do a BRRRR cookout one.
Yeah, sure. We'll throw it down, man.
There you go. So I have to say, throughout my investing career, right, I've been involved in real estate since 2006. I don't really tell people that, right? I say 2018 because in 2006 I purchased my first investment properties. I purchased a duplex in Trenton and a single-family home in Carteret. Obviously, the 2008 global financial crisis, they now call it, instead of the housing crisis anymore, right? We have to change our terms as we move things along. It kicked me in the behind a little bit, right? So I kind of phased that sense of failure out, and I moved right along to 2018. But I had that experience, and since 2006, and I call them mortgage brokers, but let's call them lending professionals, right? You're a direct private lender. So no matter whether it was a bank, generally they don't make commission, right? Or it was a mortgage broker, or it was someone who's doing commercial loans, it was always, what do you need? How do you do? Right? How do you do? What do you need? Pay me and have a good day. Right? And it was call me after that loan is done. Right? And I get a sense that you bring a different flavor to the business when it comes to it. For examples, you do a lot of conversation, you do a lot of education, right? So what do you bring to other investors that other lenders simply can't or won't?
A couple things. One, I'm extremely transactional. I've done probably thousands of transactions. So I have life experience in making a lot of mistakes and a lot of successes, right? I'm a big fan of different type of educational subjects to be put out in front of me, where one, I educate myself, but I'm also have the opportunity to provide education to hundreds and thousands of others that are listening in to the clubhouse discussions. So I'm a big fan of educating real estate professionals. I don't want them walking out into the oblivion and being taken advantage of. I've been an adjunct in teaching CE, continuing education, at Temple University for real estate agents for the past 5 years. And I've just taken that, that integrous space where a lot of the lenders out there, they weren't part of the 2008 mortgage crash. They weren't part of the unemployment issues in the 90s. They don't really understand different type of economic cycles. They don't know how to understand what's really impacting pricing, values, the market, broken down by neighborhoods, by communities, by cities. And I enjoy that part. I'm very granular in my evaluation and my strategy, having a deeper discussion with my clients. And I think I translate that through Clubhouse every Saturday and Sunday morning. And we're going to really get that translated out on video on the podcast that we're putting out there going forward.
So really good information that's out there, right? You showed it you can.
I'm trying to get the most recent information that's out there.
Right.
Peeled right off the reports.
And I think that's something that investors of today, right? Because everybody's a real estate investor nowadays.
Exactly.
We come across, right? I saw a bandit sign on a, I should have taken a picture and sent it to you a couple of weeks ago. I teach real estate class and in real estate investing. And it was a bandit sign. So if everybody's in real estate, right, it's the guy that says, when the guy who's showing you shoes is giving you stock tips, it's time to sell that stock.
Yeah.
But again, they don't have that experience of decades ago when we had that financial crisis. They heard of it, and it becomes a misnomer. And it's like, it's never going to happen to me, right? And I think you bring a different flavor to that to say, hey, watch out, these are the indicators.
I'm trying to protect the borrower at all times. The real estate professional, my job when I have a discussion with them is, one, to not allow them to buy bad, always to buy smart and make money when you buy. Making sure the numbers work, whether it's a cash flow play, whether it's a debt service coverage play. And rate does come into the discussion, but it's only relative to how you buy. If you're buying smart, the rate is really good, no matter what it is. If you're buying not so smart, the rate's going to be not that good for you because it doesn't work for you from a cash flow perspective. So it's a deeper discussion. I have probably more strategic discussions how to expand or refine the investor's portfolio now than ever before. I'm having longer discussions. Like a discussion like years ago would be 5-10 minutes. Now I'm spending 15, 20, 30 minutes on the phone with a professional to really, really understand what they're trying to do with the immediate opportunity and the future.
And those conversations sometimes don't generate into a lot.
No.
Right. So.
The relationships, though.
Exactly.
You know what? With that type of conversation, I'd probably get introduced to 3 other people from that individual without maybe knowing or not knowing. They'll just give my name and my number. Call this guy. He knows what he's doing. He'll take the time to speak with you about your subject matter. And that's what we're going to try to get across in this podcast. The discussions we're going to have here are going to be, we're going to go down that rabbit hole. We're going to have those deeper discussions with real estate professionals, whether we're doing it on Clubhouse or I'm interviewing real estate professionals throughout the country.
Excellent. So since I met you, I don't remember, in 2018 I became a member of South Jersey REIA. So since I met you, I remember you as, and you mentioned earlier, residential loan officer with a bank. I've seen you grown into commercial loans, into DSCR loans, now they call them. And to now where you're holding national titles and traveling around the country. Talking to real estate investors, real estate agent, real estate wholesalers, anything real estate genre, talking to everybody across the country and learning all kinds of markets. And your information is extremely valuable. But then you started conducting the Clubhouse, right? Like what we're doing today. You're creating this. You created Clubhouse. You created Creative Strategies. And it's never a sell-a-thon, right? You could easily say, hey, I'm Joe Scorese, and I do loans. And if you have a loan, give me a call. And you can talk about that for an hour on top. But it's never like that. Hey, I'm Joe Scorese. This is who I am. And today we're talking about today's
subject.
Wholesaling.
Everything's always a different subject.
Right. And it gets into the crux of it, right? I get a little nerdy and geeky on them sometimes on my conversations, as do you. We like the data set. We like the YouTubes that we listen to. And I guess this is a great segue, this question. And this morning we had two real estate agents that you helped them on the spot. Would it take about 10 minutes each on their thought process?
Yeah, and we had a follow-up call as well.
Right. And it's thinking outside the box that I think you provoke people to do. It's thinking outside the box, which is the reason why I hate the term buy box, because it just puts you inside a box it's supposed to be, right? It's not fitting in here. But, and we touched on this a little bit, but I think we go a little bit deeper. Why do you commit so much energy into education of your audiences to ensure that they're successful?
One, it's going to come back threefold, fourfold. You do right by one person, they tell three. You do bad by one person, they tell seven. I follow this all the way back to my hospitality training back in the late 80s, early 90s. You treat people with proper respect, the right communication, give them the answers, whether it's good or bad, but at least you get an answer back to them. I have no problem calling somebody that I can't and tell them I can't do this loan. But I get back to them and tell them that. I don't just blow them off and just forget about them, and then I run into them at an event, it's a very uncomfortable circumstance. I'd rather call them back and say, listen, this is just not going to work. Why doesn't it work? Here, here, and here. I'm very sorry. There's nothing I can do. Maybe you need to find another option. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned from Clubhouse, from doing podcasting over the years, is communication, being very clear with your answers, and getting back to people with the good or bad news the same way. It's just basically news. And that's why I think it led me out of the owner-occupied space of lending and really took me into the business space, because it's a little more black and white and it's a little more to the point, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. And the conversations that you have, we've had many, right? Many a dinners go, and we challenge each other to expand our mindset and think bigger or think outside the box and outside the terms. And the education that you give to people for free at no charge, right? It runs the gamut from wholesaling to buy and hold to the impact of current economic conditions. Some traditional real estate investing topics that just generally have over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's a 12-month cycle. They have 12 topics that they talk. January's this month, right? But you don't have that, right? It's just like, what are we talking about today, right? And it's talk about on the fly sometimes. But a good portion of the topics that you offer on Clubhouse and soon to be the podcast aren't traditional. So what is important for people to know about how you come up with the topics and the education that you provide?
So the week of, I probably schedule out my subject matters anywhere between 30 to 60 days out. So there's calendared subject matter on Clubhouse anywhere typically between 30 and 60 days out. So I evaluate that subject matter and I start putting together data points. I start doing some searching, some data tie-ins, and I try to relate it to the subject. So I try to put together 6 or 7 different pages for me to work from to identify content to translate into the presentation. Okay, I give updates to the market through a lot of my favorite sites, which I like Mortgage News Daily, I like DS News, I like Reuters, I like Bloomberg. So I'll get articles from there. I'll get articles from Buildium. I try to find certain data points that draw relevance to the subject. And this is the funny part. I get a lot of my subjects from individuals that are out there charging hundreds and thousands of dollars for workshops on that exact subject. So I say to myself, I'll take that subject, I'll do my work, do my due diligence, and put it together in a 60 to 90 minute presentation to get people on the right track to that subject, to lead them to the righteous people that they need to have in their circle. And I always go back to the power team.
Yep. So it's amazing because people are going to think that this is scripted, which is completely not. But this is exactly segueing right into where I'm going. So maybe my line of questioning is just perfect where I'm getting you where I need you to be. So you have these worksheets, right? You always talk about these worksheets. Email me for these worksheets. I have the worksheet, right? If you try to explain the DSCR in a percentage, and it'll never work for me.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
know
You
it'll
got
never work.
you got to see it.
Right, you do 1.25, 2.4, 2.04, and I'm like, I just don't understand it, right? It's something I can't comprehend. So I call you and say, Joe, help, and you yell at me, did you use my worksheet? I say,
No.
no.
And then I
Right?
open up the worksheet, I run all the numbers, and I send you the worksheet completed.
But as you mentioned, people pay hundreds, if not thousands. I mean, you go to some of these real estate courses, they're looking for $30,000. And what do they teach you? Go to your credit card, raise the credit card limit to get your $30,000 to pay us so you can make a deal. But what does someone have to do to get the worksheets from you?
Just email me, call me, text me, your contact information. And this is the irony. Two of the worksheets, which are probably the two most important worksheets to understand or evaluate a deal, somebody paid $10,000 for those worksheets. $10,000 to get those two simple worksheets that are timeless. Okay? Example, we had a conversation with somebody this morning, and the light bulb went off. She's like, I finally understand why these numbers are coming in the way. This is the confusion. You have real estate agents that are just listing properties, and then you have real estate investors trying to make offers on these properties. And there's this massive conflict because the realtor they think they're out for the best interest for the client, where the investor's out for the best interest of buying the property correctly. And I think a lot of people don't understand when you're buying a property that's in need of rehab, there's only two very important numbers to me to figure out what I want to offer on the property. One is the after repair value or the stabilized value, and what is the scope of work and the repair cost. Because I want to back into those numbers, and it's going to tell me exactly what I can offer on that property, because I know financing, meaning myself, can finance X amount of dollars based on your credit score, your cash reserves, and your experience toward that type of asset. So I can immediately tell them, this is what you're supposed to be buying it at. So I had a conversation follow up with that realtor. We had a conversation with this morning, and I ran through the example of the property that she was trying to buy. And she told me, Joe, it's $300,000 value in the back end. It needs $150,000 of the work. I said, let's take the $300,000, back off, do 70% of $300,000. She did that. Then I said, back off the $100,000. That's your purchase price. She goes, that's it? I'm like, that's it. Because a lender's not going to give you any more, any less. The only person that's going to have exposure on that transaction is going to be yourself. And now you got to weigh out the cost-benefit relationship. Do I want some money stuck in that deal? And that comes back to something that you enjoy, is understanding cash-on-cash return. And does the cash flow make sense to leave a couple dollars left in the deal, or do I leave it in a bank account? So you have to weigh out the cost-benefit relationship, because I can only maximize leverage on an asset as long as the debt service and the income and expense ratio makes sense. So I can't give you more money than what the income and expense ratio allows.
Right. Excellent. So does someone have to commit to having a loan with you to get these worksheets?
No. I want people to walk away. Listen, it's like the old mentality of...
So what's the catch?
What's the catch? Hopefully we stay in touch with one another. We work together on different facets. Maybe we don't get the one deal. Maybe we get the next deal. I want to be part of someone's power team. I want to be that go-to individual. I want to offer them my go-to people. I'm constantly, my clients that I'm very active with, they're constantly getting an introduction to somebody that they need, an architect, a public adjuster, a property management company. I'm constantly, our insurance agent, title agent, I'm constantly making introductions to make sure and assure that my real estate professional client base is being satisfied.
Yep. And you actually introduced me to several people. So, especially the events that you hold, I've met and networked a lot of people, and it could be very lucrative.
Yeah, and I want I want that same feeling from this podcast when I'm interviewing real estate professionals. That one, they're taking the time to work with me on an interview and getting to know them and understanding their market, understanding their why, and then two, really giving back to our listeners that have been so dedicated in listening in with us every weekend. I mean, it'd be funny if we walk into some of these events where some of these people have been following us. We'll probably walk in like rock stars, because people think, my goodness, right. I hear this guy's voice every month, every weekend.
Yep. And Clubhouse. So let's say an investor doesn't have a chance to listen to you live in the mornings, I mean, it's their loss because they don't get to get from the audience, come and ask a question, but is that it? You just miss it?
No, there's all replays. There's hundreds of replays. I'm very cautious also who I allow up. I will review every profile before I allow somebody up. I'm not looking for somebody to come up and beat their chest. I'm looking for somebody that's going to come up and be honest and aware of what's going on in the market, giving that golden nugget to somebody. I want somebody to walk away and say, my God, this was one of the best subjects. We went down this rabbit hole and I walked out with a golden nugget. I'm going to apply this week when I start looking at deals. I want somebody to call me and say that to me. That would make me feel complete with the podcast.
Yeah, very good. And I guess it's just a lapse of judgment bringing me into the panel.
Well, I dragged you in kicking and screaming.
Yes, you did.
I say, I see you got to come on to this podcast. You came on. I start bringing you. I start nurturing in, and then now you're a main moderator.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I do believe that there is something about karma, right? When you give on to others, it definitely pays you back.
Listen,
not necessarily that individual, but it comes back to you. Positivity comes back to you.
Not everybody is going to be willing to come on to our room in the Creative BRRRR Strategies room, because you know why? They have an agenda. I want our room to be agendaless. I want it to be an opportunity for real estate professionals to feel comfortable that they're not there's a predatory way of going about it. I'm not trying to sell a workshop. I'm not trying to have them give me their credit card information. I want to give them some information. I want them to digest it, and then let's have a strategy discussion with one another.
Excellent. So, Joe, you're just a wealth of knowledge in the real estate lending world, right? Let's just call it what it is. You just are. But as you know, investors, they like to work with people who understand what investors are, right? You get a lot of people that turn around and say, I'm investor friendly, come and talk to me. But when it's time to do what investors need them to do, oh my God, I can't do that. You want me to run numbers on all of these loans or all of these properties, or show you all of these properties as a real estate agent? You want me to waste all this time on you? Yeah, you're gonna give me volume more than the homeowner, but I got to do all this work to get there. I mean, outside of lending, what is your involvement with the real estate investing world?
Well, I mean, I've been maintaining my own portfolio for the last 30 plus years, different asset types, whether it's single family through 4 family, 5+ units, up to 25 units. And, from my own personal experience of managing, doing the work myself at one point, self-managing, I made a ton of mistakes. I've made a ton of really positive moves and successes. I'm able to show relevance and understand what that real estate investor mindset is about and understand what they're going through. And I want to get them comfortable where their anxiety level is low, where we can have a really good conversation and really get into the crux of what they're trying to accomplish. Are they trying to build up cash reserves? Are they trying to build up cash on cash return? Are they trying to do flips? Are they trying to hold properties long term? Are they concerned about leaving money in each individual deal? How should they buy better? Maybe they should change their market. Maybe this is another deeper discussion. Are you actually mining the right market to identify properties for yourself? Or do you need to look at elsewhere? That's a big question. Do you have the confidence to be an out-of-state landlord? Or do you want to stay comfortable within an hour where you live? What is the game plan of building out your real estate portfolio and really turn it into a business?
Right, and I think the difference that comes with you is that you're worth your salt, right? You're speaking from a position as a real estate investor as well as a lender. You understand the do's and don'ts. Mm-hmm. You've been there, done that. You've made the mistakes. We all have our battle scars, right? And I think you're not just an empty suit talking, right? Give me the loan, make the money, and off I go. And I think that's what the benefit is there. I mean, you don't paint the landscape with a broad brush. You can talk to the investor in their situation, where a lot of these gurus, if you will, talk with a broad brush. And you'll go on YouTube, and there's always a little bit of details and nuggets that they leave out that you can't apply because you just talked about it on the broad spectrum. But you can't do that. So, every time we close out Clubhouse or anything else, you always have one of these motivational quotes.
Well, it
Right.
ties into a couple things, and I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay, so what's your motivational quote for the day?
Well, my motivational quote today is, don't be afraid to fail, be afraid not to try. But the reason why I always put a quote out, because every morning, 7 days a week, there is a motivational, inspirational, or aspirational quote posted on all my Facebook profiles, in my pages, on my LinkedIn, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, on my threads, all the social media buckets gets a quote every morning, 7 a.m. One, I read it for myself, but one, I want to share that energy to as many people as possible because I feel that is so important. There's so much bad, negative stuff that's put out there, and I just want to kind of change that. You'll never see me posting anything other than education, motivation, or inspiration on any of my social media channels. And that's something I translated into the Clubhouse space under the Creative BRRRR Strategies house. And that obviously created some, animosity from some other groups and other people, but I can't care about them. I care about the people that want to listen in and walk away with education every weekend to apply it to their own endeavors in the real estate industry.
Excellent, and I think you do a great job attracting those people. I think they call trolls, right? You keep trolls out.
Yeah.
You do an excellent job of doing it. And, Joe, thank you for the opportunity. And folks, there you have it. Joe V. Scorese. You can hear the commitment and dedication in his voice, and he does everything he can to ensure all the information you have to be successful in your real estate investing career. So, Joe, I can't thank you enough. And
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that, and I think this was a nice just to kind of give a little bit back about who I am and what my why is. I've been through some life-changing, altering, environments, so I'm very focused on my health and fitness and taking care of myself. So it's very important on the forefront. But I think what we're going to do here on the Creative BRRRR Strategies Podcast is going to be able to be very consistent with good information, so individuals feel comfortable in whatever they're trying to do in their real estate endeavors. And the speakers we're going to bring on, we're going to vet them. They're going to give some great content, and we're going to get to really know them and make you feel comfortable in maybe adding them to your power team. Well, thank you for tuning into the first Creative BRRRR Strategies Podcast. This was a little different, which is what we want to be, is a little different. We're going to be here typically every Saturday morning. I'll be podcasting the audio podcast of Clubhouse live from here at the New Bold Exchange in Philadelphia. It's where our offices are. We wanted to make sure we had a really solid setup of our studios. And we're going to also do some live interviews in between. Some of them will be recorded, some of them will be live, and then we'll also be doing live events in various locations throughout the country as well. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again soon. My name is Joseph Scorese, founder and host of the Creative BRRRR Strategies Podcast, and thank you.